Hello guys, let me first start with wishing you Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year, and thanking you very much for supporting this channel and making this purchase, and I hope you're going to consider this in the future. This reading is going to consist of two parts. First part, important one though, even though it seems to be kind of like a little bit generic. Why is it important? They're general energies. So what does that mean? So let's say we want what we want, right? Let's say we want to buy tiles for the bathroom. So we know what we want to buy, we know our budget and everything else. So we kind of like know our little domain. But there is like a bigger picture. Who is the supplier? What can be done? So you have to work within that system. And this is like what this part is going to tell us. I also drew a rune just to give me basically some kind of like feel for it, and we are going to go in few other cards. These like really important decks. This is Osho Zen. He's like a famous I believe Japanese philosopher. We have karma cards and we have law of attraction. So for example, right, if you for example want to win lottery and you want to send those vibrations out and you have all the negative people around you, that's what's going to tell you. So literally all you would need to do is like stay away from that kind of like stuff, right? So the rune that we got was Vunya reversed. Vunya is a really good rune, even when it's reversed. So this is the rune of happy endings. We are coming into the basically cycle numerologically year number 12, which is basically cycle number 3 numerologically. I'm going to speak a little bit about that later, because oh my gosh, like year number basically 11 is tough. Year number 11 is challenging us on every single thing, and mostly on the things that actually we don't really want to be challenged. So that's something really to take in account. So this is talking about kind influence. This is talking about, hey, look, things are actually going to turn out well, right? It's encouraging rune, but when it's reversed, it kind of gives a little bit of kind of like caution that, for example, in terms of love relationship, maybe we are going to idolize someone. You know what? I say, heck, you know, why not? Usually we are so, I don't know if I want to say jaded. Like, I mean, there are like all kinds of people out there, right? And we are like, oh no, not again, right? So going on the other side, it's probably better, right? But this is also kind of like telling you, put it in perspective. Maybe somebody is looking too good to be true, and that's because he or she is too good to be true. So keep that in mind, because that person might be kind of like a little bit different from what they see. This is like entire year. They are not going to be able to put up the game for a year, especially if you see them on a regular basis. So I am really not worried about that. Also, another thing, if this is referring to business, then it's going to be danger of underhanded dealings, and even those who you consider friends might actually turn on you, and you might not count on them. So again, put that in account when you are making decisions that are including that other people. Now, what I would say with this particular rune, as it kind of like relates for the year number 3, that I would say make sure that at least you give yourself 3 days for kind of like really coming up with an answer. Sort of like, you know, not really mulling it over in these 3 days what to do. Sort of like when you have to reach a decision, put it on a back burner, 3 days on a back burner. When you come back in 3 days, then start deliberating what you want to do. So it's still very good, and this is that protection. Like P is for Vunya. I have my own names. P to me is for protection, and specifically when it comes here, because look, it's kind of like pointing backwards, right? So again, over idolizing means, hey, you know, I have all these friends, you know. I mean, I felt that way when I was moving, and then when the time came, like, I mean, everybody promised, and then one phone call after another, oh, I have a flu, I have this, I have this. So basically you see really who your real friends are. And this is exactly what it's saying. That date could be a surprise. So kind of like keep that in perspective. Already. So let's see what else we have. Let me just first get all the cards out. Oops, and we already have it. We have fighting. Oh, why do we have fighting thing? So let's, one on the floor. Wow, this is a lovely one. It's called Forgiveness. I love this one. And let's grab this one here. This is just a general energy, as it says something in, oh, this is a really lovely. You know, I'm so excited about this year. Let me zoom this in for you so you can actually have a better view of these guys, and I can kind of like give you a little bit more information. So fighting is probably a good kind of like omen, right? Fighting is like that proverbial knight of swords, which always kind of like can tend to be a little bit edgy, because look, he's like kind of like riveted himself in kind of like some kind of concoction that maybe he cannot even get out. So it almost like appears to me that somebody's like, I mean, so full of steam, the steam is coming out, it's even forming, as you can see here, some kind of like thing here on the side, right? So it is kind of like very important over here. What I really see here is like some kind of like edginess over here. What I really see here, and me being an air sign, I can really tell you how this works. Air sign can be the most easy breezy sign, but it can be tornado, it can be a hurricane, right? So what kind of like chance do you really want to take on this, right? So it is really important when you're dealing with air to kind of like understand that everything here depends on logic. Air is going to say, yeah, I love you, honey, but you are not showing up on time, you are not doing this, you're not doing this, and hence I am leaving you, right? Air is absolutely able to make that kind of stuff. So fire probably would kind of say, okay, well, let's see, let's come up with an action plan how to do that, right? Where, you know, Pentacles would go, okay, so what can you do for me? Like, let's make it more transactional kind of a thing, right? And kind of like water would go, okay, like, I mean, I really feel for you. I'm still going to kind of go and continue with this, right? So it is kind of like talking about an explosive temper and maybe even smoldering rage. And to me, whenever I see people like that, I always know there is pain. And these are strong people. And if you're listening to this, like when you see people who are maybe exploding, you want to do something and you find this like immovable, insurmountable obstacle, these people are conveying some kind of like pain. So when are people getting angry? When their needs are not met. When are people in pain? When their needs are not met. But it's actually even worse when they really feel they will never be met. With anger, like, at least, actually, believe it or not, it's better, because people feel, well, you know, if I do this, like, things are going to be met. So I know it's really hard when you have like something really harsh and edgy coming at you, but maybe you're going to remember my words. The person that you see in front of you raging and having those white knuckles and having all huffing and puffing and maybe being threatening, actually is just like the pussycat in the corner who wants to scratch everything because they're really hurting. So this is why they are showing this kind of like armor over here, because they're covering their wounds with armor. And actually, even though this is preventing, helping them not to get more wounds, it's also preventing them of being healed. So, you know, these people who lash at others, they just like simply prevent themselves of getting love and nourishment they need. If this is like us and getting that kind of stuff, we actually need to realize when we get angry, well, wait a minute, what is it that I have to kind of like let this like steam out? Because hey, love is like out there. Love is like literally something we need to kind of open our arms and get it. And if this is like you, that you find yourself in the situation, just kind of like give yourself a big hug. Ask your friends to give you a hug. It has a very healing thing. Also, another thing that I really tried and that really works, and I tell to my clients, take ballroom dance classes, take salsa lessons, because holding another human and in something that is enjoyable is going to transfer so much good energy. So I really think, given that this is coming for the ambience and environment we are going to find ourselves in it, that this is really talking about that this year is going to be one of the struggle. It's going to be where ambitions will be pushed forward. Many people, especially after year number 11, which is 2, where it's very spiritual, where it's like, really, do I really want to be that kind of person? And here is like, I'm moving forward. So up to this point was like all kind of like those strategizing, but here it is kind of moving forward. So when people move forward, some people try to negotiate and find a deal with others. These are people who are more people oriented. other people try to steamroll through whole thing and kind of like get what they want, right? So you need to understand yourself. So because this is kind of like the general overview, you have to figure out if you really want to be part of something like that. Do you really want something at any cost, or you simply don't want something at every cost, right? Because look what you have over here. You have forgiveness from this other deck, and like to me this is like one of those, the loveliest cards. This is the card that, you know, if you can see, we have like these different chakras over here. So we are already here in this high purple chakra. So your number 11 was all the way here, so we are getting more grounded. So this is again about judging and forgiveness. So even though it could be them being mad, being rude, being crude, I can see cussing and swearing and telling people off and a finger, I can see here a whole bunch of things. How you react to it, it's what your challenge is going to be. Are you going to just like simply engage in their pain and kind of like react back with anger? Or are you going to kind of like neglect yourself and just going to help themselves? You see how many challenges you will actually have there. But look, solution is being offered over here. Forgiveness. It's, you know, it's not really about forgiving others in this situation. What I really think that forgiveness has to apply to is that we need to forgive ourselves for having judged others, because judging others always generates kind of like bad brownie points. There's like somebody here maybe who, you know, these people, they're angry with entire world, and my dad is just like it. I get this very, very much. Like whenever everything is perfect, they're still going to find something. We all have those kind of like negative, you know, Sandy, kind of like negative Nancy, kind of like a people around us. So, and of course, maybe sometimes we just like treat these people with a label on it, right? They say if you really want to kind of go higher, not only spiritually, but in your life, you shouldn't kind of like have things with labels. So cat shouldn't have C-A-T kind of like spelled on it. It's a being that kind of is engaging. You see the difference. It's like reading the energy versus reading the label. So here is like basically simply calling, look, you know, understand what is below and behind that armor, that this person is probably, you know, resenting things. And here, like, I mean, we need to kind of like focus on basically intention. What do they really want? And this kind of, imagine if you manage to kind of develop such thick skin that these things are not coming to you, how wonderful would that be? That's why I see this card, but we still didn't get there, right? This also tells me that it may be a time of family healing. I feel that anybody who have hurt you, who have done something, and you know, families have their own histories, especially if there is money involved, or you know, each family has quote unquote their own way. You know, if you watch Game of Thrones, Lancaster always pays his debts, kind of a thing. Story that we see is kind of like over present, but sometimes this is also very limiting, just like this armor. So this also can actually be part of those dynamics. Now, why am I going in such a long intro to tell you this? This is because you guys are on a trajectory of that year number 3, of wishes being fulfilled, of holding on to past dreams. Over the last 2 years, you have been meticulously changing. You have been setting a new path. You have been setting a new direction. You have been also doing lots of bad things, but now you need to forgive yourself. Look, there is like this hypo, and there is like this kind of like baby over here, right? And the story behind here goes, right, that you know, there was like this Rhonda, I think, Rhino, and kind of like she kind of like has a mother. Her mother has like a drinking problem, but she kind of like really wants to become a family pet. And so one day, kind of like she hears, I think, gunfire or something like that, and all the rhinos scatter, and all of a sudden there is like this small human child that is kind of like caught up in the chaos, right? So Rhonda says, come here. She picks him up and runs to safety. So humans now discover this kind of like pair curled up asleep under a tree, and then what they do, they shoot Rhonda with a sleeping dart. So when she awakens, she is in a garden with the little boy and his family. So this is now becoming Rhonda's new family. So as you can see how things can really change. From some aggression and some kind of like struggle and white knuckles, things can actually quite work out quite well. And then we are getting this Temperance card. Well, Temperance in the other decks is really shown as an angel who is able to mix this bad and good, because it almost looks like two opposite sides of the equation, right? This is like all the way in the negative, this is all the way in the positive. This is like pretty much what we go to church for, what we pray for, what we hope for. This is like when we are at our best. So I'm not really surprised that actually we got this, like in saying, okay, so there is like this kind of like measurement that needs to happen, and there is like a mix. No, I'm not saying to be in the middle. I'm just like saying that you need to kind of like take every single bolt down from every single thing that you feel guarded, for every single thing that you feel you have made your decision, you have made your verdict over something, because this is also a card of reflection. So if you're going up, and I see many people are going in different direction, because this is a year of advancement, this is a year where we're actually putting things in practice. So if in 2018 you were planning to renovate the house, maybe you're collecting kind of like the ideas, maybe you were kind of getting your estimates, in 2019 you're going to put it in place. If in 2018, like you were trying to, let's say, get married and find a proper partner, and maybe you were running in a whole bunch of people and feeling maybe even a little bit disillusioned and now getting more guarded. No, it's actually not the time to get more guarded and put more bolts in it. It's like saying, look, I'm still learning what works and what doesn't work. So that's why this reflection is very important. You're looking back and saying, okay, this did come back to me and I did like it. This came back to me and I didn't like it. So you kind of like figure out, this I don't want to have anymore, and this, you know, I do want to have way more to have of this. But also you're saying, I can tolerate this and I cannot tolerate that. So you're kind of like creating that proverbial line in sand, which is like a little bit different. So this kind of like boundaries are set up different. Only thing, because we are having here like this naked woman instead of the angel and the water. Like the nakedness is always talking about being authentic and being true to yourself. And like the truth, some people say, oh, just say it the way it is. I like to be honest, but I cannot say, well, he's going to dump you, for example, right? The truth also always, and that's where the difference in between good human and bad human kind of comes to play, is like how you render it. Because here it's talking about the truth mixed with kindness is basically something that kind of like dissolves everything negative coming your way, right? So just like think about Vunya reversed, as I told you, 3 days. So when somebody comes at us, we react back. There is like this bad blood, right? And we say things that maybe we didn't want to say. 3 days delay, the steam is out, right? You wake up in a new garden and you realize, oh wow, you know, this person actually really wants this. So how do I meet his or her needs without sacrificing mine? Because at this stage the rational mind kicks in, and remember, this is all about logic. So if you can find a way to present that in a logical way, most likely you're going to be successful. Okay guys, so let me tell you a little bit about this year number 3, because that's also very important. So year number 3, we were technically in the year number 2, but for some of us was year number 11. So what's the difference? 1 and 1 is 2. And so why it was for somebody 11 and for some other 2. Not everybody can all the time be at the highest spiritual level. So we just like resort down to what we can do. So number 2 is about harmonizing. Number 2 is like, how can we actually improve and get along better and work better, right? But number 11 is like taking that to the much higher level, sort of like thinking about mankind. And funny enough, even though it is about good, when is good needed? Good is needed to erase the bad. So lots of bad things happen in year number 11. Lots of things that maybe we need to kind of really work for. So after a year in which other people's needs kind of eclipsed our own needs, now it is our turn. The 3 year is like really simple and more casual, this like 12-month cycle. And what is really important, and advise making this big sign and put it on your fridge: what do I want? Right? You're going to see that all the things that maybe you didn't consciously plan, but they're kind of coming up, are actually really kind of like coming back. So your own long-term happiness and fulfillment are really the central issues here. And the 3 year cycle gives you that opportunity to discover and then create what you believe will actually make you happy. Remember, Wunyorun? So what you want is actually attainable, regardless of what appears to be standing in your way. Are challenges going to happen? Do you have a clear road? Nope. No, you don't. But as I told you, like, spend a few days to kind of think through it. Make sure that you have a backup plan, because people will surprise you with how unreliable they are. So direction of your happiness will be uncovered, and you will first have to detect and, as I said, heal the sources of your unhappiness, which you will find have as much to do with what is taking place in the world, as I told you, this is general, as it does also with your own personal situation, because they're like these two puzzles that have to fit together. So it's going to be about direction we take with personal situations, relationships, and also memories. You will really have to feel what you're feeling, and you will need to express those emotions in a way that is really natural for you. We all have different expressions. Yes, some signs are more aloof, some are like just like too kind of like, you know, opening their kind of like water taps too much and cry easily. But this is not to measure that just because you cry over something that you feel deeper or more. Sometimes people cannot cry because they would just like lose it. Just keep in mind, when you see this person like huffing and puffing, angry, that person is like the one who just cannot allow themselves to do that, because they will fall apart. This is how fragile they really are. Remember, happiness is a feeling, it's an emotion, and that only comes from inside. And there will be at least one opportunity this year to feel joy as you have never felt it before. Remember, joy. Remember, what do I want? What kind of joy do I want? So as this 3 year kind of progresses, you are going to find yourself, and this is good, in some kind of spotlight. And you will certainly need to express your alternating fears of failure and success. Yes. If you feel, oh my gosh, I'm not going to succeed, that means you're hesitating. Like for the last 2 years, you have been going through that, thinking through it. So why don't you make these first steps? It's going to be some kind of like release. It's going to be making you feel more comfortable, or who you are, what you are, and where are you now. It's going to be that realistic perspective. Remember the woman under this waterfall. It's kind of like that cleanse. I see myself now. I see myself clearly, right? So this completely a new spectrum of options will open up for you. So it's going to be really important that you're going to see now that you're creating something because you have already created in the past. It was in the back of your head. It was something you noticed, and now the puzzles are coming together, and you are becoming that creative springboard from which you build your future. And you might need to take a few courageous leaps in the dark, as I said. So if you're hesitating to make a first step, and if you're thinking, no, I don't ever succeed, I don't do that, well, no, this time you need to take the step forward, because that is going to completely open this new door. Because fear is really there to teach us. That's what needs to be healed, right? So that's kind of like what is guiding us on that path to develop courage and to know that you're far more capable than you ever allowed yourself to believe. And this is that level of self-acceptance. I am this way. I'm just this way. I'm not trying to be Cindy Crawford. I'm not trying to be Brad Pitt. I'm this way, but guess what? I'm really unique. My kindness, my approach with other people, whatever kind of like works for you, is like something very unique, very authentic for you. So that's going to be part of that self-acceptance. And all of a sudden your leaves will turn to bounds. And this year could turn out to be your most fulfilling year ever. So just remember that courage is not the absence of fear. Just because you're courageous doesn't mean you clear all that fear. So if you're not afraid also, then courage has nothing to do with that. So what courage really is the acceptance of fear and saying, I'm going to deal with this. I'm going to get through it, whatever is causing it. So it could also be like, some kind of like financial state that you have to go through it. You're wondering how can you put things together. So it's kind of like moving it forward. That's kind of like really, really going to help. So this is kind of like that part telling you that nothing is going to be really rosy. But this year, among many, many years, is one of the best years. So in addition to courage that is going to be kind of like exercised, it's also going to be a year full of lightness and happiness and innocence and peace and truth and friendship, creativity, communication, dealing with younger people or feeling youthful ourselves. We are going to be more beautiful, and of course that's going to start kind of like shifting our personality into something that is lighter and more optimistic, more loving, and it's going to be way more laughter than we had in a while. Of course, keep in mind, in order to get there, that sometimes that kind of like the opposite can come through it. So also, on the outside, we might see people who will try to put us in depression and sorrow and guilt, gossip, lies, enemies, ugliness. Am I talking about politicians? I guess I must be. As you can see, the reason why year number 3 is giving us all this happiness and lightness, it's simply to be the antidote to all of these kind of like other things. So if you experience this kind of like pessimistic or, rejection or coldness, then these kind of like things have their purpose. Those adverse elements often enter our lives in the year number 3 to show us that we maybe equate happiness with really superficial and shallow things. And this year, because the number 3 is represented in tarot with Empress, and it's very female, it's very feminine energy. It is kind of like being quiet strength, being that light and light beam to the others. So just think about the perfect woman. So of course she's going to be challenged with those rude males or rude partners or partners who just like really want to conquer her. So yeah, she can engage back and just become just like one of them, or she can just like have this like kindness and lightness about her and just say, nope, I'm going to be courageous enough to say no to you. Maybe you're not my only choice, and if you are, I don't want you, kind of a thing. So year number 3 is very, very important as far as relationship. It's not asking you just to go and hook up with somebody. Nope, it's not going to work that way at all. So it actually is going to ask and demand independence. You will want to be independent. It's kind of contradiction. You're going to be actually more successful in a relationship by being independent than actually just trying to find somebody just because it's easier in the two. This is going to be a really, really good fit, because it's going to be an opportunity to love deeply without constantly worrying about what others think. And the more you have the higher self-esteem, the more you approve of yourself and do what you want to do, the more others will accept you as you are, because they'll be witnessing that transformation, and this like pure beauty is going to come through no matter how you look, because you're going to have that authentic confidence. So when this inner beauty is expressed outwardly, it's really, really hard to resist. And we all know people like that who might not even be beautiful on the surface, but their charisma is like so strong. They just like kind of have to put this kind of like smile on their face and they become irresistible. And usually we see that through smile quite a bit of the times. So anybody who will try to kind of like keep up appearances or having any kind of like displays of false confidence or being bullied, that's not going to work. If you want to pretend that you're happy or fearless, that's not going to work. Remember, it's going back to what do I want, and it's going to make you push you through. You need to get there by getting along with the other people, by being kind, by being nice. And that of course means kind of like wiggling through many different people who might still not get this memo. So friends will also play an important role in this year, so make sure that you actually give yourself more time for social interaction, and that's where the independence with relationship is going to kind of come to play, because you will kind of like try to please other people, but you also have to realize that you are important, right? So you shouldn't kind of like spread yourself too thin if you're neglecting yourself. You kind of have to put yourself first and then kind of like give time to everybody, because if you don't pay attention to your friends, then you're going to lose them, because this year is going to be year of abundance. Just like think about it, it's going to be Christmas all year long. This is how it's going to feel. So how would you feel that very, very good friends like you on Christmas? So keep in mind that you're really thinking about everybody, because it's going to be very, very important for kind of like what kind of brownie points you do that in the future. Because you know, courageous is not only being when, you know, when there is a fear or there is a struggle, but what when you really can do it, when there's easy to do it, and then you don't do it out of laziness, or you just become, you know, arrogant because you feel like you're better than anybody else. Keep that in mind, keep that in perspective, because also individuality is going to be very important. You'll be kind of like creating some kind of like new format of who you are. You can kind of like remove these like bad parts or smoothen them, and kind of like understand that the happiness, this new happiness that you're generating, is also partially because you are actually creating this new optimism. And anybody who is going to have a blatant self-interest is just simply going to be kind of like pushed on the sidelines, and they'll be probably waiting on the next cycle, which is going to come in 9 years, to try it again, right? So also, this is a very creative year. It's a year of communication, expression. So you might want to read, or you might want to write a book, but it's also going to be looking at the images and sound and humor and movies. It's going to be really important. It's almost going to be a big stage, right, this year. So kind of like expression in many different elements. Also, as I said, with the rune Vunya reverse, make sure you check the facts for yourself. It's very often in the 3-year that we kind of like really succumb easily to, what do you call it, hearsay, I believe, or somebody who is very loud. You know, just because you're very loud doesn't mean you're right. So that's why I'm saying give it a delay of 3 days. Somebody says I'm authority, question even that, because the truth is likely to be buried beneath layers of deception or misconception, right? So try to keep an open mind. Also, this year could be a year of appearances. So meaning what appears to be the case must be seen for what it is deep down, not just like what it appears to be, right? Just because you have flowers and something looks really nice on the top doesn't mean there's like something really muddy and horrible on the bottom. So just make sure that you correctly understand everything, that you clarify, and that you kind of like are on the same page. And even at that, kind of like still, if you feel that you're betrayed or somebody's like negative, you just like will realize this is just part of the course. Maybe you shouldn't react. Maybe this person is in pain. Maybe this person feels you're going ahead and they are not, and even though it's not your fault, they are being reactive. And take this in account before you actually kind of like deal with other people. Keep in mind that the better person you are, the better everybody around you will become, because it's almost contagious, and this is how good it's going to be. And you're going to really address that feel, as I said, that armor is not going to last. It's going to fall apart. Like, I mean, we have to heal all the wounds. We kind of are generating completely this new body. Remember the woman under the waterfall. We are washing it over. We are healing. Just think about for a moment, God is giving you everything new. New health, new body, new possibility, new start. And even though we are going to have share of our problems this year, we are perfectly able to deal with them. The Empress is the perfect woman. She addresses things wisely, and she's kind of like moving it forward with this gentle touch, this loving and kindness and children and pets and creativity and anything that we can give birth to, such as like, I mean, new things, a new personality, new perspective, is going to be really, really important. So the year of optimism, which is very positive, I would just like, I mean, welcome you to enjoy your trip on the tree path, because it's going to be interesting and a creative year to live in. So let's start with the individual signs from this point on. And there we go. It is Aquarius time, and I hope this is going to record, because I already tried twice and it kind of like didn't work properly, so fingers crossed. Even Safi came once to say hi. So what am I seeing here, guys? I'm seeing cave. So cave is like that absolutely lovely card. It is like talking about somebody's sanctuary. I really love this card because it shows the human who is actually thinking. There is this transfer of thinking onto action. This is like something you can see. You don't have to know the language, you don't have to think about a thing, but this is a pure process of this brain work of expressing something. So what will possess person to express themselves like that, other than it's that urge that is just like really, really unique to us humans. So this is really telling me that there is like that place in our head, which actually we do have as our sanctuary. It is clear that it does exist, right? It is clear that we actually really have to address the space, and that sometimes more than any other sign, we need that space where we are left on our own and we are dealing with our own stuff. But when this card shows up, especially because it is coming in conjunction with this one, look at this. It's a machine. It's a whole bunch of stuff going on, and we see this kind of like brick chimneys burning. So the fires are everywhere, like, and we feel blocked in and built in. It's almost like that somebody is, quote unquote, in their head, prisoner of our own mind. So yes, I do know sometimes our sanctuary is a computer, sometimes our sanctuary are the news or whatever project we have on a go. This is clearly telling you guys that maybe our mind is now running the show. Maybe, like, I mean, we need to simply find that space in the nature and disconnect. Maybe reset that hard drive. Maybe just like too much stuff in there and nothing really makes sense. Or patching things up, it's kind of like hard. Maybe kind of like certain things just like need to be done in a different way. This is clearly saying that we need to reestablish and ground that connection, because look at him. He is protecting himself from the environment, but he's also kind of like drawing on the wall, expressing his creativity, feeling warm, feeling cozy, and feeling kind of like the things are actually working out over here. Now, our card showed up here. This is our card, heal. Whether it's up or down, it is really talking about cutting those chains. There's like something that has been holding us back. I see over here 4 of Earth. Well, 4 of Earth is always talking about, there is like an essence that maybe we feel that we have reached the potential, that we have to hold the fort, that we just cannot expand more than we are expanding. It is what it is. Oh my gosh, did it stop again? I hope it didn't. I'm sorry, I have Mercury retrograde issues, and Mercury retrograde is over, so I shouldn't have them. 4 of Earth is usually in the regular decks, showing that little fellow who is kind of like holding his pentacles, right? Holding everything he has. Why is he doing that? Is he or is she afraid that you're not going to get more? Are you afraid that others will take it? It's usually, to me, the card about walls erected, where is going back to this cave. It's maybe going back to, look, I really need to spend some time on my own. So this is going to be one of the two things. One, maybe you have spent too much time serving other people's needs. Well, actually three things. Two, maybe you spent too much time on your own and now it is time to kind of like expand and open up. Or three, both of these things above. Both kind of like spending too much time on your own, and when you are not spending time on your own, then you're spending time just like servicing others without actually things being in balance. So I really think this very first quarter, because I'm actually kind of dedicating this to quarters, is going to be really dedicating to healing and addressing our own power. And there is like this cutting those cords, taking these walls down, removing the things from our brain, removing the processes and the engine doesn't work. It almost like suggests to me, given that we have the 2 air and 2 fire over here, that is going to be lots of action toward changing how we send our vibes out. Maybe we are too strict, maybe we are too rigid, maybe like things had to be that way in order for us to kind of accomplish something. But also this is the time that things are going to get different. Look at this. There is like this proverbial 2 of Cups, spiritual union. Isn't this funny? It is waiting for us. It is around the corner. Look at that light. It's in the heart. It's sort of like in our feet, lifting us up to this new level. And look at that understanding of each other, understanding. And I really love this card because it doesn't show 2 cups. It shows that infinity over here in this card, which it doesn't show in the other decks. And the 2 of them are looking each other in the eyes, and there is like this one source. To me, this is a really soulmate card, and it is a soulmate that is going to really resonate with us and maybe give us this opportunity to kind of like finally come out of our cave. Usually Aquarians get very disappointed and disillusioned when they try to explain something to people and they are misunderstood. That's because Aquarians are actually really advanced souls, and if you're explaining the kind of like theory of relativity to a cat, who is the stupid one, right? You know, you can blame the cat cannot get it and cannot kind of create that stuff for you all you want. I mean, you should have known better. So in many cases, it's just simply how we deal with the other people. They just like simply cannot get us. They cannot get their concepts. They just like simply cannot follow through. And we don't like to go basic at all in situations like that. So it is going to be really important here to realize, hey, you know, we are finding somebody with whom we can see things. We can kind of like communicate with this person. This is really good, but it's also going to make us aware, holy moly, I had too much crap in my head. Like, I mean, I'm burning like myself on all ends. I'm everything to everybody, or I just like haven't been enough there for myself. This is extremely important to realize, because from what I see, what is coming here ahead, it's going to be lots of things that we need to resolve, kind of like karma wise, right? Because look at here, the second quarter. So first quarter, Valentine's, our birthdays, guys, celebrate, but my God, get out of your head. This is going to be the order of the year. We just finished year number 11, which is dominating Aquarius. So it was like 2 strikes against us, and I predict it was like a really interesting year. I think we cannot label it as good or bad. It just was. You're actually going to realize how good it was maybe in about 8 years, because while you're going through that, we don't really have that entire perspective, but that perspective is going to become more and more evident. In this particular year, we are actually starting to work on all of these seeds that we have planted, right? And look at this. Isn't this one of the best things? Especially when they come together. Time to come out of that cave. Look at that card, and it's called Breach, to make it absolutely lovely. I personally am a little bit afraid of whales. I think I would lose it, like, because I'm also afraid of deep water, and that's probably more or less seeing such a huge creature that can squish you and I'll end up in this deep water. It's absolutely terrifying to me. But watching them on television, it is like fascinating. It's a fascinating something so big. It's so joyful, and that we cannot even don't know how to connect. And it kind of like can be that allegory with how we sometimes really want to benefit humanity and society and people around us, and it just kind of like falls on deaf ears, right? Because look at this. Look at this beautiful whale. He is spending majority of his life inside of these deep waters. But here, he's taking a break from the ordinary earth element life in which he lives to exist, even for the few moments, to kind of like see those beautiful blue skies. It's akin to us jumping in the water and having that that release feeling. It is kind of like that absolutely lovely feeling of freedom. And guess what? That word freedom really appeals to all of us. So this is kind of like something of magnificence, of display of fullness and strength. And I really think that's what's going to happen. We need to kind of like erase the hard drive and start maybe all over. And yeah, it might be scary for many things that we have built, but this is exactly what doctors' order are. It is time to take a break, and not just a coffee break, but a respite from the usual environment we are actually finding ourselves in. Go and meet different strangers, go and try different cuisines, try different hobbies, try something that is creative. Even if you think you're not creative, go and try to dance, even if this is just like what they say when nobody is watching. It's very important. What about a trip that you wanted to take? Go for it. What if you can't afford a trip and you really wanted to take it? Go on YouTube, go through that maps and just explore everything you need to see. Don't let things stop you. You're Aquarius, you always find a way. Volunteer in different country. Are you tired of being indoors? Make it a point to get outside. I really think that this is really telling us that we have become too attached to our surroundings, and that we have created some kind of illusion of safety. But you know, it's not necessarily that we are feeling safe. In fact, probably we were feeling agitated. We kind of like really worked so meticulously to kind of like do these walls, and now it's like scratching our head like, why in the world I'm not feeling so safe and so protected, right? I also think this is also talking about breaking through the barrier of beliefs that maybe constricted us in any way from being who maybe we truly are. So this is our opportunity to do some intentional breaching of these thought patterns, right? And I really think this is going to open us to different worlds and different perspectives, because look at this. Isn't this also opening us up to different worlds? And it is exactly as big as this whale, as it shows over here, metaphorical in this. This is this huge scale. This is usually the judgment card in the other deck. So obviously the scales of karma, the scales of justice. Have I been doing okay? What have I been doing? It's kind of like that reassessment of what needs to be done. And this is really talking about those well-deserved reward and transformations. I really feel that some of us feel slighted on some things, and it was like the issue that really needed to be addressed and needed to be resolved, and hence it kind of like turned reversed. But this is still a really good thing, because look at him. He is actually standing on golden boulders, whether you're up or down. Over here, it only tells me it was a burden, right? But what is really beneficial, most people don't notice, that this almost looks like an arrow, and that arrow is going up. Because now the fire is in a belly, the fire is that motivation that we need to go from inside. We are definitely not going to be similar, because these two cards, transformation and truth, are really connecting very much excuse me, to the scorpionic energy, but it's also connecting to the energy of Aries, where there's like this motion forward, motion of where do you really want to go. It almost like reminds me of a person who is you know, like when the people get a second lease on life, or they are dying, they want to try all of these different things. And doing that, I mean, we are maybe a little bit rigid, and we maybe have been good things. I'm keeping an eye on the monitor, because yeah, you see, it did cut it for a little bit, so my apologies. So I really think this like first 6 months we are going to be reassessing how we think about things, and certain things actually really served us. We actually had to kind of shift. The shift did happen, guys. So pat yourself on the shoulder, because it could have been hard, could have been easy, but it's certainly going to change our lives for the better. Mark my words, because we are cutting these last cords of oppression. We are simply becoming much later, which means that other people are going to actually really understand all of these things, that we actually who we really are, because the kind of like rigidness that we had didn't really get us anywhere. And finally, it's going to be that situation where we can actually move it forward. It's the kind of transformation that is going to happen. And all of a sudden, from all of this, it should be this way and not this way, and this is the solution, instead of like just listening and hearing. It doesn't mean that we have to go with anything. It doesn't mean that we have to pass judgments, because I really think passing judgments is something that we are going to really start to pay attention to, because we are going to start to wonder, who am I to pass these judgments, and who am I to impose this morality onto the others? But look what's going to happen. Now we are having these 2 5s, and this is going to be something absolutely amazing. Look at this. Here we are just looking, are we actually deserving? Did we put enough on this karma to actually go to this kind of like universe, to that spirit, to kind of like things? Its answer is yes, we did, because look, we are moving forward to this kind of like what they call it Merkaba. It's kind of like Milky Galaxy, and this is kind of like that energy that goes through it, that supposedly goes through our spine, that supposedly kind of like really pushing us forward. We are moving on in that direction. We are laying our swords down. We are not anymore holding grudges, because to me usually this card connects with grudge holding, connects with things that kind of like really needs to kind of like work properly. Because look at him, he's having a piece of the cord, and I really feel that this is connecting with this card. Look at this energy that is generated over here after cutting those cords. But here it is, look, you know, I have to figure out, I have to move into the light. And the light it is. It's not going to be just a little bit. Look at this amazing radiance. And it's talking about summer solstice, and it's very appropriate, because this is exactly probably where the shift is going to happen. I believe this is talking about June 21st. That really this happens. So keep in mind that the word solstice originates from the Latin word solstitium, which means kind of like stationary or stopped, when the sun stops. And it's like twice a year. It's, I believe, on the 21st of December, and it's on the 21st of June, right? Summer and winter, right? So that twice during the solar year, kind of like sun appears to rise and set in the same place for several days. And this entire thing about Christmas, it's based on this, because the sun seems to set and then it rises again. So this is kind of like Jesus Christ is a God personified, right? And it's the sun God, and that's exactly what is referring. And kind of like he died on the cross, which is the constellation that shows up on December 21st, and then it rises again, and that's exactly what happens. So this is again talking about you know, something that is just perpetual. It's also asking us for kind of like allowing ourselves to kind of immerse ourselves in that radiance and let concerns go, and like especially kind of like telling us that we spend too much time in our head. That means we spend too much time thinking about the future. It's saying like, how about now? How about thinking what's happening right now? This is almost telling us that we are going to be godlike. We will not be the policeman of the morality anymore. We will not be, I will be not preaching in my readings anymore. It's going to be, hey, it is what it is, kind of like a very, very light thing, singing and dancing and being outdoors. Oh my gosh, things are going to change so much. I'm kind of like really feeling that lots of aquas have been in and closed in, and it's going to be all out and out and out. It's a kind of compensation kind of like in place. So it's going to be sort of like being in love with life, even though somebody really special might appear here completely. And this also means that we are healed completely and ready to move into the next phase of love in our life, right? So also in this part of the basically cycle, our capacity to love is going to be hugely amplified. So dating, kind of like realizing what we need, maybe moving on from that situation or moving toward something that we hope it's much better, it's going to really happen. So we are going to be truly who we are, and we are going to be truly expressive in the world. We are going to be smiling a little bit more. We are going to be noticing how beautiful is the nature. And guess what? We'll be able to laugh not only at the paradoxes that we see in the nature, but really we're going to laugh at us to see really what is going on, right? So it is kind of like something that we are going to really light up. Just like think for a moment how kind of like wonderful gift this is when all of a sudden we are able to create all of that energy. So it's kind of like unbelievable thing that didn't happen as a product of our conscious thought. It's coming more or less of a product of a release. I also think that for some of us it was like something that was holding us back, that something could have been connected to something from the past, and that something from the past could have been not maybe only from 2018, but also from some time before. Even there is a possibility to actually go 2 or 3 years back, that maybe something just like wiped us out, wipe out our energy, wipe out our enthusiasm, make us look we are inadequate, we are bad, this, and that kind of like pushed us into these walls and this rigidity. We kind of like almost like created that incarceration, that prison of our mind. And guess what? We have here another 5, and 5s are all about freedom, about uplift. Because look at here, what do we see over here? We see, I think, 3 women, and playful, but also they have to be extremely alert. Do you think somebody here is thinking about the to-do list for tomorrow? I have to do the laundry, have to take my shoes to the cobbler, or I have to bake a pie, I have the exam. I guess not, right? Because that in the trapeze act, nobody can afford to be even a little bit absent, right? Not even a tiny little split second, because that could be detrimental to everybody. So this is really talking about totality, total awareness of the moment. And maybe we feel that there are many things to do at once, but just as I said over here, maybe we try to be too much for everybody. And this is going to be a reminder that we are not going there anymore. So it's almost going to be, hey, I'm enjoying just to deal with things as they come, as they go, and taking one step through life at a time, right? Giving each step complete attention. It's kind of like living in the moment. It's kind of like where the energy is completely the highest, where kind of like almost like all bygones are bygones, but that's not going to be the biggest deal. The biggest deal is going to be that huge, enormous enthusiasm that we are going to feel going through this basic thing. And look what we have. Then we are entering the fall with this beautiful forest card, breath. That was like something got in my head in 2018. And it is really weird how we treat animals, how we treat plants, And I know you can overdo with that because most people know it would be nice to find alternatives so we don't have to kill animals to eat them, right? Especially if this is your pet. And anyway, let's not go down this tangent because I'm going to make everybody cry. But I'm also starting to feel the same way for basically the plants, because plants actually have emotional lives. They have proven this. They know that if you're kind of like cutting the plant, that the one that is like right next to it is feeling stressed out, and unfortunately they cannot do anything about it. Plants are so beneficial for us. They are giving us basically, there's a exchange of carbon dioxide and oxygen each time, right? And it's like kind of like that exchange that is creating this balance, that is creating life on this planet, right? And also, when you're really talking about breath is foundation of basically every religion and every spirituality, every training on this planet. And look at this spirituality. It's going to be about this listening card, going deep. It's going to be something going inside in a different way. I really think, again, the very last quarter we are again going to be maybe pull back from the rest, but we are going to kind of realize that, you know, we need to kind of like breathe with a full lungs. And if we start to feel that we have shallow breathing or that we subconsciously shorten our breath, it's again is going to be that realization that there's like something triggered. So it almost looks like that we're going to have physical manifestation, that we are going to stop kind of falling back into something where we were. We are going to identify actually physical trigger or conditional response to something that basically we used to have. I think for us is going to really manifest through breathing. So it's going to be a great thing to have lots of plants in your home so you kind of get that natural oxygen, especially if you smoke. It's going to be very, very important to take care of your lungs. So breathing and understanding, like, I mean, how to kind of like do this exchange is going to be very, very important. And I also think that there is like this, if you heard a concept, fight or flight. So this means when we are faced with some kind of decision, and look at this, we have this another big sun over here in this card. Somebody's saying stand your ground, but this was reversed. Maybe kind of like challenging people or challenging concept just like took too much energy. You know what's the worst part? We go and we fight for somebody, and then we kind of like change things for somebody else just for that people to betray us, just for that people not to understand how much we had to do. So I really think here we are going to kind of like spend more time on ourselves and less time on everybody else who maybe is not worthy, or maybe we will let people try things themselves. So yes, we do have a passion, we do have a power, we can transform ourselves, but look, I mean, each one of us can actually do things, and we actually really test people. We are going to be very, very smart about it, and that's why this listen card is actually showing up here, and that's why she has this like huge amethyst like just over her heart chakra. It is talking about this wiseness and kind of like attention to the detail, because look at that listening. Listening is like, what is this, Maya Angelou, I believe she said, just like, listen, people are going to tell you everything about them, and you just like need to tune in. But most of us tune things out like that. People say, well, I'm a horrible person, I just yell at people, or they actually, you see how people are yelling at people, and you just like file this away because it hasn't been directed onto you, and you're not taking it seriously, you're not even registering that. This is saying that it's very important to pay attention to it, that some of us will forget to pay attention to it and to listen. And we really need to listen also to see if somebody is really going to protect us and going to stand for us, because we so often do that for the others, but the others don't do that often for us. They basically, I don't even say that they use us, but maybe they think, well, you know, this is the personality, they are going to do it. So in the end, we end up kind of like doing all the stuff. Remember also that we got this crown chakra. crown chakra. This is the top chakra. That's the God basically connection. This is what is allowing us to shoot out from this kind of like capture system. We are actually able to connect with a higher spirit, with the highest good. So guess what? The connection can actually close down. God can just basically hang up on us if we are not worthy. So what is being worthy? Because in our heads, the way it is right now, we think we are worthy if we help others, if we just bend backwards. That's not the case. We need to be in the moment. And in the moment in a very productive way, even if we are alone, or if we are alone in the midst of the groups of people, right? You can sit in the restaurant, be in your laptop, but you're alone, but people are still around. Listen and pay attention. Yes, it can kind of like form these judgments, but it also kind of creates a very protective thing for yourself, realizing what you need to fight with and what you really don't need to fight with. Because this last quarter is going to be more or less about wisdom. It's more or less going to be about understanding of ourselves. And some of us will really, really want at any cost to be with somebody. There's going to be a bit trouble. Maybe somebody that you'll be dealing with in the second half of the year might actually live long distance. Because look at here. You see this like top of the mountain. So what's the point in this card? This person is going through these clouds and through this kind of like atmosphere. Can you see this little speck? The point is like journey. The point, and again we have this solar kind of like appearance over here and over here and over here and over here. Look at how much sun is going to shine. And yes, number 3 is the year of that shining sun. So we are luckily going to basically swim through it. Our personality is going to be changed completely. You know how they say that all of the atoms in our body are changed completely? Completely. We are not the same person every 7 years, and yet we behave the same because we keep reinforcing on this kind of new fresh blood. Well, this is the way it should be, that rigidness. All of a sudden we will kind of let go of things. We need to be able to access. It's going to be a little bit kind of like rusty in the last corner. We'll get lazy because we'll have such enormous success and we will feel so light at one point, especially somewhere June to September, that is going to look very easy. But the very last part, I think Spirit is asking us to absorb all these lessons. So it's going to be a little bit of more meditative mode where we kind of like really need to pull everything together. However, it might be fun times because this traveling can mean literally travel. This can talk about spiritual travel, pilgrimage, or journey. But to me, it can also talk about transitioning and going in a completely new direction with new ideas, with new concepts, and what we want life to be like. Who are the people who we want in our life? And no more in the black and white. More or less, everybody is open in my life. It doesn't mean that I'm going to give you this much time, because it's going to be a completely different value system that we are going to have at the end of 2019. So what I'm going to do next, guys, I'm going to actually divide all these events into astrological houses, so you will really know what to expect in a career, in a family, in the relationships with yourself, what you need to do, and so on and so forth. And then the very last part is going to be Lenormand. It's going to be broken even more down into kind of like timelines. So let's do the next part and see where this takes us. Alright, Aquarius, so let's see what basically we have as a repetition, because some of these messages already did come through before, and I just want to lay them down here on the table so we can see them again. So look at this, well-deserved reward we have here. Then I really believe we have this card listen over here as well, that we have it over there. And I really believe we have this as well. Do we? Yes. dreams coming true. So also we have a karma card showing up over here, so that is going to be very, very important. So let me start. The very first house, who we are going to be, we are going to be very romantically inclined in year number 3. And in year number 3, we are going to really realize our own value. We are going to realize what we can bring to the table, what we are bringing on board. This 9 of Cups is that nice energy, which is very much unlike us. But as I said, this new year is going to shift things happening so much. We're going to not really recognize who we are by the time we are really done with this. So this very first house is talking about our appearance and outward personality, and we are going to be somebody people will like to schmooze with us. People will like to buy flowers for us. We would like to do nice and gentle things with the others. This is going to be really, really awesome. As far as the house number 2, that really talks about money and values and skills and possessions, we have the Devil here. Well, it's actually a good card when it comes in that house, because the Devil is basically, Capricorn is the ruler. A Capricorn is very much focused on a career and the money and what am I doing with that? Am I doing the right thing with this, right? So yes, this can mean spending into something that is indulgence, but it's going to be our sweet indulgence. And I really believe that we'll be spending things on the things that are really meaningful and important to us, right? Things that for some reason we really, really wanted to for a while, and maybe we couldn't afford it, or we couldn't put it in practice for some kind of reason, and now basically the time is coming. Then in the house number 3, this is like really our immediate environment. It's kind of like how our thoughts, remember this cave card where we're kind of like we are transferring certain things into practice. But look at this here. Remember these 2 cards about being prisoner of the mind, and the suggestion that we basically received in that response, that we need to kind of like get out of our head. This is exactly what this card is really talking about. She's blindfolded, she's tied, and she feels, oh my gosh, I'm stuck. I don't really know how to go about that, because this is that mental activity and siblings and communication. Kind of like she really needs to figure out that the world is not threatening, right? And I really believe this is really what the year is going to be about. It's kind of like asking us our own input. We just can't expect things to change if we are not part of that change, and we need to kind of drop down that huge process. Just imagine you're blindfolded, you're tight, you know there are swords, you can touch the coldness of the sword, there is the wind, it's cold, you think you're going to die, somebody is doing things to you, right? So what's going on through your head is that fear. And usually this card always tells me about past and the future, that people anticipating certain things from the past to reappear, and maybe also that certain things in the future are not going to happen, that the needs are not going to be met. So it's kind of like really, really important to kind of like realize that. Here in the house number 4 is that nurturing house, and it is home and parents and roots and inner security. It's going to be a little bit of a wobbly ground. I'm not going to kid you, because there is a King of Rods. Maybe we have somebody in a fire sign, specifically Leo, and we might feel controlled by this person. We might even feel let down by this person. We might feel let down by our parents. But this simply means that maybe it is a time for us to cut a cord, because remember that I said we are not going to be the same. So you cannot expect that we'll be doing things in the same way, with the same mannerisms, in the same direction as we were doing, right? Remember that old adage, if you keep doing the things the same way over and over, how can you expect different results? It's the definition of insanity. So we will really maybe be judged for the things we are doing. Maybe we will be counting on the support of somebody and it's not going to be forthcoming. Keep all of these things in perspective, because this is the house number 5, which is really talking about us, and that cave and that personal creativity and the stuff that has to come outside of us, the stuff that where we feel comfort, right? Where we kind of like really need to pull ourselves into our own world. And this is like where things will happen. It's no basically surprise that this actually really showed up in this really house. So it's really going to be something that we will need to open up. So I really feel that creativity is going to be one of those things that is going to really help us to push us in a kind of like much better direction. And it's kind of like really something we really need to work on. So talking about the scales of justice over here, look, they are not in balance. And we had this like huge karma scale in this particular card over here. So both of them are basically karmic cards. You see, that was the year number 11. This is the year we are leaving, right? And 11 and 2, it's almost the same, right? 1 and 1 is 2. So both of them are sending very similar message. This is really talking about you need to get what you need, not what you want. And here, how did you deal with that, what you got that you needed? Did you feel slighted? Did you feel that somebody took things away from you? Or did you understand? This was like this, the big message. This is falling in the house of also personal creativity, of daily life, of health, of service, and of self-improvement. And it's a really big lesson that we are doing there. And I really feel by just simply reshifting our mind, reprogramming our mind, it's going to be a lots of, like, remember the card breathe, meditation. It's going to be lots of yoga. It's going to be lots of mindfulness. You know how some people just make sure they brush their teeth morning and evening, but how many of us like put this 2 minutes in the morning and evening for meditation? We are going to simply make that a rule because we really need to connect. And this was exactly what it was. We started to be disconnected and be very rigid. We are also a fixed sign. So it is very important. And certain things are going to be really exhibited in our work, basically life, in our health. That's going to show huge improvement. So that's something we can actually really put our hat on. We can, like, we'll connect it later with the career, right? It more or less is going to be something. The career is more or less the tangent where you're going to, versus this is like, how do I really want to go about it? Because I'm seeing this expanded horizons and achievement kind of like it might actually go really slow, but I really don't think that's because we are not going to get where we want to get. It is kind of like it's not going to be as important for us how we are seen on the outside as it's going to be important for us how we really want to continue to go through the process. Because look at this here. Here is the house 1 2 3 4 5 6 7. Yes, just wanted to make sure. That's the house of a partner. That's the awareness of others. That's talking about marriage and talks about other partnerships, right? We are going to feel very powerful. We are going to feel that everything that we really wanted, maybe it can be kind of like really jeopardized with relationship. We wanted a relationship for such a long time, and now when finally things are opening for us, like doors are opening, people want to be with us, we are all of a sudden starting to value that independence that we had, that rebelliousness, that faithfulness over here. Look at him, like putting this kind of like your hands on the hips like that. It really shows like that huge enthusiasm and huge kind of grounding. Like it is like something that to us did not come naturally. It is really coming with like the battle. So there is like the phase 9. So this last 9 years have been this long phase for us where like our relationships took a completely different turn from what we wanted before. So if you really think back 9 years ago, we had completely different concept what is relationship and what kind of relationship we want to be in, and it is like completely different from what we have it right now. It's not that we are not going to think about the things that we wanted in the past, because this is kind of like that 8th house, which is kind of like belonging to Scorpio, and that sex and death and letting go. other people money. There are going to be things from the past that will be connecting. So it could be inheritance, it could be kind of like pregnancies, it could be that the children will be really, really important. So I am clearly seeing Aquarians having completely different priorities. It's going to be to the point that almost like we'll be defending our independence. We'll defending all the things that we actually really work for, because honestly we are going to be just like a little oracle. We'll be walking around and looking at people. We will know their number within few seconds. It will be that quick. But we are no longer going to be judgmental. We are just going to go, yeah, trouble, turn left, trouble, turn right. So we will totally be going around the obstacle, because up to this point it looks like we were going headstrong and going right through, and it was lots of headache and lots of broken head bones, and that's not what's going to happen. But right now we actually will emerge, because all of these tries and errors and tribulations are actually finally making us find a way. It was not, looks like, easy, but certainly it is kind of like getting us to some kind of like different level. It could be a little bit bittersweet, especially because whether this is children or grandchildren, or that we actually are no longer pregnant and now in this next phase it is happening. I don't know, for me, I'm actually thinking about adopting a doggy. I don't know what it came through. Maybe that's something that's going to happen over here. Here, something that is not going to be important is the higher education, publishing, religion, or status. Those things are not going to really resonate with us, because we are going to have much different plans. Those plans are something that we have it built in, because look at this. This is justice, which is number 11. The high priestess, which is number 2, which we already had it over here, is shown here with Roman numbers, which almost looks like Arabic 11. So this is, to me, always I connect these two cards, because one is like this universal justice, and this is like kind of like, hey, you need to kind of like go through your understanding. This is why she has the moon under her feet, because this is really signifying that she kind of like can rule the unknown, can kind of like develop herself in that territory where everything that you have is only an instinct, and you're absorbing your basically information. So for example, if tomorrow is the end of the world and we don't have any reliance on the internet or anything that we are really used to, many of us will be feeling helpless. We would not even know what kind of like food we can pick and eat. So literally this observation would be, let's see what is safe for the animals. So if they are surviving on this, I should try it. So that's kind of like this knowledge. But in particular case, this is more or less talking about the spiritual knowledge, because she has this book of wisdom. And this book of wisdom, and the wisdom that we are definitely kind of like talking about, because we had a 9 over here, and now this is shifting almost to 1. And this is about spiritual life, and this is about solitude. And actually that was showing over here. We did have a few cards that kind of like alluded to that. That Hermit card, which was reversed, and this Stand Your Ground card that was like reversed. It is possible that we are either dealing with certain things from the past or people from the past, or that finally we are just saying, well, the past did not work for me, and we are like future looking sign, and we actually at this stage really want to look to the future. And literally with us is going to be back to the future. It looks like that maybe we feel on some level that we have been sidetracked from our path, and that something really worked, that we feel we have to go back in order to repair it, in order to kind of like move forward. The truth is we have been repairing it all along. We have been listening, we have been learning, we are realizing what is important, what is not important. We did pass the game, we did pass that test big times with these two very, very strong karma cards. This is all good. We actually also learning what doesn't work in relationships, and it's so weird because the relationships are going to be so simple for us that they're not even going to be highlight in this particular year. It's going to be, well, you love me, well, I love you, sweetie, too, but you know, I really have to figure out, I need to read this book, I need to kind of like figure this one out. It's going to be just like that easy breezy light attitude. So okay guys, let's put this all in a perspective now when I put it in Lenormand. So I'm going to shuffle, I'm going to put this entire deck down, do my grand tableau. We are going to be able probably to see a few more details about who, what, where and what is doing to us, and basically kind of get more information about 2019. Okay, Aquarius, let's see what's going on here. This is very much overlapping with everything else. So again, in Lenormand, we have significators. We have the gentleman, we have the lady, and as I said over here, it's like not something that is like just immediately that something needs to happen. So I can see here dating, I can see the communication, and that actually relationship could be at work. This relationship could be really something that are very much kind of like the key, kind of like pushing into something forward. It's kind of like for us dealing with something with the past through kind of like interaction that we have with the other people. What I really kind of like find it very interesting is that the gentleman here is in the house of the flowers, or the bouquet in this particular deck, and bouquet is in the house of the heart. So just as I told you, especially for the ladies, there's going to be lots of romance, people with this kind of like flowers coming to us, kind of like very enthusing things going in a new direction. Like again, is like that sun very close to that heart over here, something kind of like going and kind of like almost like nurturing on that level. Something does have to stop. The way we used to communicate, the way we used to do, will actually have to stop. And I really feel, being Aquarius, kind of like having that very friendly approach, people kind of like usually put us in the friend zone and don't take us for granted, or really think we just kind of possibly be interested in them, they're not in our league. And same thing, we just kind of like going in a different bracket, and that kind of like creates lots of imbalance, especially when it comes to relationships. I also feel for some Aquarians there's an issue of a third person. There's an issue of something that needs to be resolved in a head, something from the past, something that is still kind of a thing connected most likely with some kind of like man, things that kind of like was an offset, a whole bunch of things. It could have been somebody with a child who did certain things for a child, and who did maybe something for the papers. Maybe they had to be with somebody because of the paperwork. Maybe they thought this is the healthiest solution. It was like somebody who really thought it was the thing to do. They actually don't feel any conscious any guilt over that. They really feel it was some kind of a circumstance. But we kind of like, looks like the other party disagrees over here, because look, we have the sky is right next to the lady. Interestingly enough, the sky is in the house of this tree where this gentleman is knighting this tree. So it's not healthy for us to hold on, especially if you're a lady. It could have been the issue of somebody who has been a third party. This also could be really a legal spouse of the person, because I see it could have been some kind of like therapy involved in this, or somebody in the house. It could have been somebody overseas. It could be one of those long-term relationships where people are telling you one thing when you're talking to them, next thing you know, you visit them suddenly and you find somebody in their bed, kind of a thing, right? So I can see there was like, I mean, a whole bunch of things that was going on that needed lots of healing, and needed healing on more than one person. It almost looks like one person cooked everything. I'll be honest over here. Look at him. He has this dating over here, and maybe dating with somebody from the past, because we had here, remember we had this like six of See, I have to remember everything. We had this like Six of Cups, which is really talking also about the children and also about something from the past. So this could be somebody who you knew for a while, who maybe did resurface or who will resurface. If you didn't have somebody like that in the past, I feel it this way. If that was somebody from the past, then I really don't think you really want this person. I really feel more than you just want to kind of sort it out in your head and move forward. If you haven't had this kind of experience, that you have been dealing with somebody in a tricky or slippery situation where promises have been made, because look, the ring is right there, but the ring is in the house of the snake. So somebody's promising a ring, but somebody else is holder of the ring. So it just can be one ring. So this person doesn't want to give the ring away, and it just like was a conflict just because I think promises were made that couldn't be kept, and that somebody justified that I'm doing the right thing for this and this reason, but they kind of didn't care how many people they kind of like drag into that hole. Because look at here, I'm seeing the coffin in the house of the stars. The house of the stars is always talking about communication. So it's going to be the end of some kind of communication. Another thing that really dominates this reading is the bear that is in the house of the bear. Bear is about this bear protectiveness, mommy bear. It also talks about money and longevity and what kind of like things we really want to commit to. You see, it's something really karmic that's going to happen. And again, the book is closed. We kind of like need to open up and get going and get energized. The sun again is in especially ladies' house. For the men, like both of that, ladies and men, Aquarians, are going to really, like, fly. It's going to be this exciting time with this loving attitude, because the crossroads means kind of like going in a new direction. It's kind of like leaving all of that stuff behind, leaving the snake, leaving the gentleman, maybe going for something else. And that something else is going to be so freaking good, because we have both the clover and the clover and the bouquet, right? Both of them signifying luck. Only two things are signifying small luck, huge luck. And this one is in the house of the heart. So lucky in love, guys. Somebody who's going to be loyal. That's what I said. Everything that we so far had, that we had to literally fight for, something that should be normal, it's going to be so all of a sudden really easy. But it's going to require that we overcome this mountain, that overcome this darkness, and somebody who basically eroded us, somebody who maybe just like many went in the fabric of what we are made of and just like simply kind of like nibble on that and dealt with that. I really feel that especially for men, you might be meeting somebody from your work or through some kind of like volunteering services that you do. It could be also in some kind of like short trip, and this is going to be literally short, most likely with a car. And but I see the trip here for the ladies as well, but it could be a little bit bigger trip, which we also seen in particularly in the last corner that kind of like has happened, right? So some of us might be moving to a place where we didn't live before, because we have the tower and the key over here, and then we have the house and the ship over here. So, and also the stork, which is like somewhere in the middle, can also talk about either new job or the relocation. It's going to be kind of lots of things. Some of us will be focusing on, okay, so how do I reestablish myself? What do I need to overcome? Like some of us are going to have a little bit bigger challenges than the others. For some of us, going to be challenges how to move forward, and that's going to feel kind of like slow, just like that page of Pentacles that we had it here, kind of like especially under career. So if you're really career oriented, right, it's going to be a matter of kind of like really figuring out what you really need right now, and not where you want to be in 3 years from now. That's what I want to be 3 years from now. It's not really going to work this time around. So this is really important to look at this way. People at work are going to be loyal. It's going to be really important. But look at this cross. This cross is really talking about karma. This is the karma card, and usually cross is going to give us indication of things really to come. The whip is in the house of the cross, so we are literally saying to karma, watch me. You are not winning. I am the one who is going to create that, because the cross is in the house of the sun. So that's going to be more or less really applicable on the ladies. Kind of like, I'm going to be this beaming sun and things will be happening and I'm going to be creating love. And as I said, by the end of the year, you're not going to recognize yourself. So there is like this healing attitude that we see over here. The book is closed, but it's going to open. It's going to be this kind of karma accomplished, and feeling really, really good about it, because the cross in the coffin also is signifying the ending of somebody or something. It could be the gossip. It could be that we overcommitted ourselves, that we kind of like have been wanting somebody who maybe couldn't be with us, and the certain things just couldn't sort out in their head and have left kind of like long ripples. Because that's why we had that card of listen, kind of like just going to kind of understanding. But with the bouquet over here over here in the heart, and heart is really talking about this new crossroads. Whether you're male or female, this is all good. Things are actually being placed in a perspective. We are, yes, maybe we are indulging a little bit. That was like the devil card that I saw there. So the bear can kind of like bring us a little bit in that territory. How much money do I have? I have to make sure that I don't overspend. But I really think that it was a couple of years of either recklessly spending money and not really seeing anything beneficial coming out of it, or kind of like you really didn't think that you got everything that you wanted. This is going to be a year of good investment, right? It is kind of like going in a new situation or closing certain situations that maybe kind of like didn't really work properly, and that's maybe why we have this coffin. Keep in mind that bear energy is like very positive. Remember the bear and honey, and the only warning over here would be jealousy, right? But since the coffin is there, I really feel this jealousy or something is kind of like reflecting back to the past and something that had to be dealt with, some kind of like protection, right? And it is clearly card of money, so it's kind of like having money, really good money. But it's not only having money, because when we change, and we will change, this is going to set us on a new path. It is going to last next 10 to 15 years. So choose wisely, guys. Very, very, very important, right? And this also can talk about a new relationship, and that can be really, as I said, work, kind of like meeting somebody at work or in your related field. But this can also talk about that maybe somebody from the past wants to come back and revive something that has been kind of like put aside, and it's going to be really, really hard to kind of like resist, because that somebody could be either from work or somebody who we really know from the past. Because this actually card can actually talk about reconciliation, but weirdly enough, if you reconcile with somebody who you already had issues from the past, the same issues will reappear and you will have none of it this time around. So that's kind of like summary about Lenormand. So let's, guys, go and get one more card for advice. What is like one thing that Aquarius must absorb as the kind of like the biggest pointer of the year? Because remember, crown chakra means you're opening up, your system is being washed, the hard drive is being reset, and you're getting a much better hard drive installed. So you know, when you have a new computer, it runs really, really smoothly. So kind of like enjoy, because the old stuff, you know what they say, don't sweat the small stuff. That's exactly what's going to happen. So what do I have here? Ghostlands reversed. Interestingly enough, that's a card number 17, and 17 actually does represent Aquarius. So let me see what this card is all about. Reversed. This is what it says. When the Ghostlands card appears reversed, it is a sign that you are wondering in an emotional or intellectual place with no real substance. There is no point longing for which has already gone or hasn't happened yet. Perhaps you've created a fantasy of the good old days, or some elusive utopian destination that lies somewhere in the future when this or that happens to make things better. Live one day at a time. Did we not get that message over and over again? Each day is a new beginning. Again, I'll repeat that. Each day is a new beginning, filled with truth and beauty. Stay away from the ghostlands of past and future. Avoid nostalgia and longing for something better. Instead, find joy in what is present in your life today. So guys, live for the now, enjoy, and allow yourself to get a completely different mindset, something that is not going to be as pressing, as hard as it was before. And if somebody's coming back, be aware that this person can very much be one of those karma tests that is really asking you to kind of like let go. So my dear Aquarian, I really wish you a happy new year and all the best in 2019. And one more time, I really want to thank you for supporting this channel and for being a subscriber and being around, because that means so much to me, and I hope to see you more in the future. All the best, and until the next time, you do know that I love you.